Alright, for this week's fly we're going to go with another Kelly Galloup pattern. This one is his flanked back creature. 2 articulation points. It's essentially the Boogie Man with another hook. And there's a couple different things material wise, but it's essentially a dual articulated Boogie Man. So we're going to go ahead and get started with this. This is a Daiichi 2461 size 4. This is a big fly. It goes pretty quick. I mean, it's a pretty quick tie, but there is a lot of fly to this. A lot of motion. So to start out, I thought I picked these out beforehand, but I didn't. I think that'll do. To start out, we're going to go with a Marabou tail. It's just regular white Marabou. And as always, we're just using the tips of this. Take this and get off my finger there. We're going to take and measure this out the length of the hook, if not slightly longer, and get this first stack tied in. As always, end it right at the ascent of the barb. That's where you're going to have your materials tied in. That's where your thread's going to be resting. And go ahead and take the excess of this all the way up to the front. Go ahead and clip this off. Now we're going to throw some internal flash on this, just like we do with the regular Boogie Man. And we got 4 strands of silver Flashabou. We're going to leave this just short of the length of the tail. Go with the 4 strands on my side. Bring this around, and then we're going to go 4 on the camera side. Go ahead and trim. Then we're going to take our next stack of Marabou. This one will go right over top. Get the excess out. And get that tied in. Same length, maybe just a shade longer than that bottom stack if you want, but I typically try to go the same length. And then same thing, we'll bring this on the opposite side, work this all the way up to the front. And just build a little bit more bulk for our body. Now the body on this one, if you've watched the regular Boogie Man, that one, you know, it has the schlappen and then the ice dub and the wire going through it. For this one, this is just straight UV polar, and this is a UV pearl that we're going to use for the body, and we're going to just take this one wrap right in front of the next all the way up to the front. So go ahead and get a good wrap on that. Go ahead and give it a quick pull. 4 or 5 wraps, anchor that in, and then just repeat that all the way up to the front. 4 or 5 wraps, just anchor it. And then leave yourself a little bit of room to tie in your flank feather. all that back. Just clean this up really nice. That way you have all of your fibers pointing toward the back. You don't have any of them wanting to have a tendency to come in front or anything like that. Just makes it a little bit cleaner, and it allows your flank feather to, allows your flank feather to lay back a little more flat if it doesn't have anything hindering it. So we're going to measure this out. And it is going to go just past your marabou tail. You want the shaft of this feather traveling right down the center of your hook. And I'll flip this over and give you a better look here once I get it tied in how I want it. Trim that one up. Okay, so here's what I was saying about this. With the shaft of this feather, it's going right down the center of the hook. And there we go. You want to make sure when you pick these feathers out that, here we go. I explained this in the other Boogie Man video, or in the Boogie Man video, and I think in the D&D one when I was using flank feathers. But you want these nice straight shafts. You don't want anything with a twist off to one side or the other, or your fly will track that way in the water. So be real selective when you go through and pick these out, and make sure that you have a nice straight feather. Nice and even on both sides, pretty well symmetrical. And I'm just going to take just a touch of zap here and throw this just right over top of the couple of thread wraps holding in that flank feather. So there's the back section. Got the wire pre-tied in on these, save a little bit of time hopefully. So that back one was a 24/61/4. This one here you could go with the same size or one size up. I went with the size 2, so I'm obviously going a size up. And go ahead and get my thread started on this. Trim this off. We'll go ahead and drop that. We'll get this connected. Got some glue sticking in my fingers. A little added challenge. So go ahead and measure this out. Measure your loop out, make sure that it's going to be the distance that you want it, and then go ahead and tighten this up. Bring this all the way up to the front, peel it back a little bit. Like I explained in the bang tail TNA, you don't have to do this step. You can just run it straight up there, but it's just a habit that I've gotten into here as of late. The next thing that we're going to want to do, and I put the marabou away, I shouldn't. Get it zoomed out just slightly so that's in the frame a little better. We will just go ahead and pick off a junk piece of marabou here. Something that's pretty wispy. And what we're going to do is use this bottom section, not this stuff right here. I mean, that stuff's pretty much garbage. There's not much of a use for it unless you get a really good feather. So we're just going to pick off a section of this real quick. And what I do with these tips is I just kind of pinch them down, bust them off. The tips are kind of, well, not kind of, they are a lot more sparse, so I don't really feel that you get the best cover for the skirt. So I like taking these tips. If I don't use the Schlappen, which I typically do, if I use Marabou, that's how I like to prep these. And same thing as always, bring this right back to where the barb starts its ascent. And we'll go with the same amount just on the opposite side of the feather. That way we know we're even. And then go ahead and just clean these up a little bit. Get these busted off. Somewhat even, they don't have to be perfect. And then measure this out against the other one. And throw this over top, or on the opposite side. And then if I can, I'm just gonna capture all this stuff and use it for bulk. That's pretty clean right there. That'll work. Now we're back to the UV. Moving along at a pretty good clip on this fly. Like I said, it's a pretty quick pattern because we're using a lot less materials. For being a triple, it goes pretty quick. And then get a quick half hitch. And then same thing as the back hook. Go ahead and start your UV. Get at least one full wrap in there. Give it a quick set. 4 to 5 wraps. Set it again. 4 to 5 and set. Just keep working this all the way up to the front. 4 to 5 set. And then should be, let me get one more in there just to fill the front out slightly. And get that tied off. And then what I like to do with the middle section and the back section is I like to just peel these down a little bit. It just gives a little bit more body to it, and it allows, because the flank feathers have to go back so much further, if you have a lot of these standing straight up, the flank feathers seem like they want to, they kind of stand up like this, and they don't really lay down how I like them. So I just peel those down real quick. Kind of helps with the profile of the fly. Now I'm going to measure this out, and the second flank feather is going to go just past where I tied in the back flank. And it just gives it one, it looks just like one clean fly instead of, a two-part fly or whatever that may be. And then we're going to do the same thing with the last flank feather. So we're going to have, they're just going to kind of be laying over top of one another, and it just gives, like I said, it makes it look like one fly as opposed to having 3 separate sections. So same thing, get that shaft traveling right down the center. Go ahead and make sure that we're good, no twists in there. And then we can whip finish this one as well. Moving right on to the front hook. And then with this one, I already have the wire and the eyes pre-tied in, just to save a little bit of time. These eyes are really, really freaking cool. These are like glitter eyes. They're blue from MFC. These things look really neat. Like if I zoom in, you probably can't see them too well. We'll see. Yeah, you can pick it up. See the glitter in those things? I mean, as always, I mean, it doesn't make a damn to the fish, but it just looks really cool. So, you can use just the regular red if you want, yellow, whatever color of lead eyes you want, but these ones just kind of jazz it up a little bit. And I need to tie in my thread. I'm jumping the gun here. So we'll get the last hook in here, get this articulation wire going, get a couple of loose wraps on this, make sure that you have your distance right, just a little bit less than the overall diameter of that bead seems to work pretty good, and it looks like it's setting how I want it. So go ahead and bring this back, just set that in your material clip for now. Bring your wire all the way up. And then we'll find another junk plume here. Something that doesn't really have a function elsewhere. Yeah, that one looks borderline at best. So go ahead and get rid of this bottom stuff. And then we'll do the same thing that we did for our skirt on the last section. Get that side tied in. Go back to our feather here, grab the same amount, and then just pick this off. That didn't go too smooth. That looks better. And pick that off. We'll throw this on the camera side. And because I brought the articulation wire back and doubled it over on itself, I'm just going to run this Marabou right to where I left off with that wire, and then you can see we have a pretty smooth transition. There's a little bump there, but I mean it's not too terribly bad. Just a little bump. Last time tying in this UV. Get this on there real quick. And advance your thread to the front. Let me get a few solid wraps on this. Come around my eyes a few times. Those are locked in pretty well. Get a half hitch on this. Try not to trap too much of the skirt. We didn't get any of it good. So get a full wrap or two in there. Anchor it. Work your way to the front. 4 or 5. Anchor. Now leave yourself just a little bit of space here. Probably 1 to 2 wraps. leave yourself 1 to 2 wraps so you can get your flank feather tied in and have room for the head and all that. You don't want to crowd those eyes too awful much. And then same thing, I'm just going to peel these down best I can. Like I said, it adds to the overall bulk of the body and it doesn't prop up your flank feather too much. So same thing, we're going to measure this out. I want it going back probably 1/4 to 1/2 inch over top of my tie-in point for the previous flank feather. Have this running right down the center, same as the other two, and I'm getting a couple UV fibers here going all a little funky on me. That's alright. Then I take this, I just let that stem in and I tie in front of the eyes. Just gives me a little extra reassurance that it's not going to go slipping out on me. And then the last thing we got here is we're going to finish this off with this silver belly or silver minnow belly Senyo's laser dub for the head. So same thing, same method as the TNA we did last week. Just get this right on the top. Get that tied in. That might be just a shade too much. Run it through the comb, clean it up a little bit. Bring this on the bottom. Okay, now what I'm going to do with this one, and this just gives a little bit of extra, it just fills the head out slightly. I'm going to take probably double what I used for the last section. I'm going to clean this out. And then you guys have seen me do this before if you've watched any of the other videos that have lead eyes and use the laser dub. I do it with ram's wool too. I just kind of grab a section of this and work my finger through there to where there's like a little cone, and then I'll set this right over top. I'll peel that cone around and tie this in right behind the eyes, and then bring this stuff back, peel it back right behind the eyes again. Don't worry about trimming this stuff off just yet. Leave it as it is, and then we'll work this to the front. Probably got 2 more stacks on the top and bottom. So get this top stack set on. That's looking good. Same thing on the bottom. Don't advance your thread very far, so when you make that, when you tie that in and tighten it up right next to the actual material that you just tied in. And I'll explain that a little bit better when I do this last one. Go ahead and advance to the front just slightly. Probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 thread wraps, and I'll really zoom in on the head on this one so you can see what I'm talking about. It's a little out of center, but you'll be able to get the gist. So, go ahead and have this stuff peeled back. So I'm tying this in right there. So that's a loose wrap still. That second and third are loose, and then I'll tighten down on that third. And you can see my thread is right next to the material there. Let me turn this slightly. The thread's right next to the material. I didn't advance forward, so then when I go and I put my bottom section on, it's going to be lined up, and you're not going to have, you know, like a little gap from where you tied your top and bottom section in. So, get this last one. See what I mean? I can come right up in front. I got it right in front, and they're even. You know, I don't have this bottom one sitting closer to the eye. They're nice and even. It's just a little trick to help with the consistency of this head. And then I could have got a little bit more on there, but I'm not too worried about it. I'm gonna leave. I could have got that a little further forward, but by the time I trim this out and it's gonna fluff out a little bit, it's gonna look just how we want it to. So go ahead and just comb through this. Yeah, that's gonna look good. Go ahead and comb through this real quick. And then the last thing I'm going to do is stand this stuff up and just make, you're not really making a cut, you're just kind of pushing your scissors through and giving a slight trim. You don't want a nice straight cut through this. Just kind of work your scissors through it and give it a nice taper on the way back. I'm going to leave some of that in for the collar right there. I'm pretty happy with that, actually. Believe it or not, I'm actually happy with something that it's not going to take me 10 minutes to trim it up. Yeah, I'm going to let that one be how it is right there. But minus a few minor things that I'll do to this. Oh, I can't help myself. There's one little spot there that I wasn't too happy with. There we go. Minus a few minor things that I'll do on this fly. That's the finished flanked back creature. As always, if you guys have any questions or comments on them, leave them with me and I'll get back to you. But thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you on the next live.